Robert, Jim White with TennesseeTitans.com. What do you want your team to look like on Sundays? What do you want them to be known for week in and week out?
Fast and violent, man. Play in and play out. We're going to play with speed. We're going to play confident. We're going to have some swag. Talk a little but I want them to show who they are, play in and play out. And like I said, the one thing that you'll notice is the speed at which we play and the violence at which we do it.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast, MCA Live, coming to you live 4:34 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursday. A couple hours ago, the Titans wrapped up their introductory press conference with new head coach Robert Saleh, and here we are, Justin Melo to my left, or what? I'm not sure. It's hard to say. I'm Justin Graver, and we're going to react to Robert Saleh's press conference. We're brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville in partnership with 440 Sports. And here's how I see this, Justin. Look, it was a long presser. A lot of the answers are kind of like coach speak, generic. We understand the work that it takes to get to where we want to go. But you and I watched the whole thing. We pulled some clips. We pulled some important things that we thought, stood out to us so that you guys out there don't have to go watch the whole presser. You can just watch us react to it. You'll get everything you need to know and have a great understanding of who Robert Saleh is and what he's going to bring to the Tennessee Titans. How's it going, Justin?
I'm doing well. It's been a busy day, obviously. Senior Bowl's going on. The Titans introducing Robert Saleh, as you said. I thought it was a good presser, maybe even a very good presser. I think a lot of it was definitely coach speak, no doubt about it. Like, I think my favorite, they asked him about his plan for Cam Ward. I don't think he really said anything other than, Cam's got an elite personality. Like, he didn't really say anything about his plan for Cam Ward per se. But I thought what was most impressive about Robert Saleh was the fact that I thought he had a commanding presence about him. And I think that's what the Titans were looking for. I think he's someone who commands the room when he speaks. As Garrett Michael says here, if you aren't excited about that presser and our new staff, you are dead inside. So I thought even Paul Kaharski went on Twitter and called it a home run, and he doesn't do that very often. So I definitely thought it was he won the press conference, if you will.
Yeah, and look, winning in the press conference is a whole lot different from winning football games. I think you and I did a similar episode. It wasn't live. We didn't really do live streams back then, but reacting to Brian Callahan's introductory press conference, and we were pretty impressed with him. He speaks well. He sounds like he knows the game well. He sounds like he has a plan and knows how to teach it. Obviously, he didn't. Now, these are two completely different people. Saleh has a lot of experience as a head coach. Granted, a mostly failing experience, but you could also argue an overachieving experience. 7-10 with Zach Wilson as your quarterback might be considered an overachievement. The point is, it's a vastly different looking experience and staff, and every person involved in what Robert Saleh is building has years and years of experience, and compared to what Brian Callahan's staff looked like. Now, granted, Bill Callahan was a big part of that, and he had a lot of experience, but he was kind of the only one with a ton of experience. There were some guys on the defensive side of the ball too, but for the most part, like when you look at it as a whole, and you mentioned his presence there. One of the things Mike Borgonzi was asked, what was it about Robert Saleh when he came in and impressed you? Like, what was it? Why did you pick this guy? And I'll just quote him here. He said, "You could feel his presence as soon as he walked in. He had a plan for everything." And he went on to say that one of the big things that drew them to Saleh was player development. Quote, "You heard it over and over again. He can develop players." The last thing is just that Robert Saleh is apparently, I can't speak to this, but I can speak on what's reported, a great human being. And Mike Borgonzi said, "From every person we called, Robert is a great human being." And you heard him talk about, if you listen to it, he talked about connecting with players, understanding who they are as people, what makes them tick, that relationships matter, and that it's not just about having the speed and the length, but it's about the football character. And that doesn't necessarily mean a bunch of choir boys, but football character, loving football, being dedicated to football, the type of players that he wants to bring in. He said that's how you build a culture, is getting those players in, teaching them what's expected of them till they get to the point where they then lead the new players that come in because they know what to expect. We talked about that not too long ago on this show, Justin. So lots of good indications there. It aligns perfectly with what Mike Borgonzi targeted in the last draft class. So I do think these two guys, while they may not have had, a relationship before this hire, they clearly see football, coaching football, and team building through the same lens of philosophy. I think that's going to help a lot. Do you have anything else, initial thoughts you want to throw out there? If not, we can start getting to some of Saleh's actual quotes, some of the things he said, and some of the things that matter.
I want to get to the quotes, because there was like 2 or 3 in particular that I'm looking forward to dissecting, because they were the ones that I thought was the most interesting. Again, a lot of coach speak in all honesty, but a couple of things I thought were the most important and impressive things he said that actually offered, in my opinion, some insight into what his plan is for this football team.
Yeah, so let's start with one of the most interesting things, I think, to me and all Titans fans is the hiring of Brian Daboll. And by the way, while I'm mentioning hirings, Justin, you and I, we should just let our audience know we are obviously aware that the Titans' 3 staff hires were announced pretty late, some of them pretty late, at least one of them pretty late last night. We're not going to talk about those today just because we don't want to get bogged down on that. We want to focus on Saleh and his press conference. We'll obviously be back tomorrow. We'll be live tomorrow at 10:30. The topic of tomorrow's show is, what are realistic expectations for Titans fans to have for this upcoming season? And we can bake in these 3 reported staff hires into that conversation. Another really interesting thing that Saleh said in this press conference that I don't know if anyone knew, I certainly hadn't seen it reported anywhere, is that Monday, this coming Monday, just a handful of days away, he said was the first reporting day for the coaching staff. Now, this is a team that still doesn't have a defensive coordinator officially, a linebackers coach officially, and a few other assistant level, and there's like lower level positions that haven't been announced. I'm guessing, based on that comment, that the staff will be complete by Monday. I mean, maybe not. It doesn't necessarily guarantee it, but you'd love to have everybody that's going to be working under Saleh in the building that first time that he addresses his staff. I assume that we're going to have the rest of the staff by Monday. And Saleh even said, we're still working through some things before we can announce them to you, which sounds like we may not have any word that the Titans are interviewing so-and-so or spoke to so-and-so about this position coach. We may never get a report about it until we just get a hiring announcement, and it might come from the Titans. We have hired the following staff. So it's TBD on that, TBD on the staff convo. We'll have it tomorrow. But getting into some of the stuff that I was talking about, before I got distracted there. Brian Daboll, what is his role? How much autonomy will he have on the offense? And I'm just going to play a quote from Saleh here talking about what he expects Brian Daboll to do on that offensive side of the ball.
Obviously, Dave's and I have a tremendous relationship dating back to our time in New York. Obviously on opposite sidelines, but great empathy for one another and just going through those experiences. But whenever you look at the dynamics of a head coach with his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, obviously it's no different than kind of the way Kyle kind of handled me as a defensive coordinator. There's full autonomy with regards to game planning and putting together the playbook and the scheme that's best for this group of players. But at the same time, there's always going to be discussion in terms of what it's going to take between offense, defense, and special teams, what type of game plan we need to formulate in all 3 phases to win a football game. And week to week, that's always going to be different. But the communication, the collaboration, the expectations, all those will always be communicated amongst the entire staff. And the idea being that while there's 3 phases to football, we're still one team, and those discussions will always be had.
Pretty great stuff, right? And it certainly sounds like, as expected, that Brian Daboll, the way I interpret it, is going to have a pretty long leash here when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. Now, they know what the scheme is going to look like. I think I can't wait to talk about that specific quote that Robert Saleh said about the scheming, because that was, to me, the number one most interesting thing he said. But great answer there. Full autonomy, essentially, for Brian Daboll. Put the playbook together, put the game plan together. Of course, going to change week to week based on opponent, matchup dependent. But really, this is going to be Brian Daboll's offense, as we anticipated, head coach of the offense.
Exactly. And I think the key thing that stood out to me there is a different game plan. It's going to change week to week. Please give me a coaching staff that will game plan based on their opponent and not... we talked about this is a long time ago now, but I remember a Titans-Browns game where the Titans scored 12 points all on field goals. against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL and one of the best run defenses in the NFL. And all the Titans tried to do was run the ball. It's like, do you know who you're playing against? It certainly seems like this coaching staff is going to know who they're playing against. We know from Daboll's time in Buffalo that he consistently changes up what his offense looks like. There was a year, Justin, where they played Kansas City week 5 when Josh Allen was first breaking out. I don't remember if it was 2020 or 2021, but they ran a certain offense for the first 4 weeks of the season. And then in week 5, finally playing the Chiefs, who I believe knocked them out of the playoffs the year before, they unleash a brand new offense that nobody had seen yet a month into the season. That's the kind of stuff that I'm looking forward to watching with this Titans staff. And you mentioned Brian Daboll, the interesting quote on Brian Daboll's scheme. Why don't we listen to Saleh tell us what that, or should I get to this comment first? 2252 Nemesis says, by the way, this is my first live. Out of all the people who cover the Titans, you guys are my favorite show to watch. Thank you so much for joining us. Glad you could make it to a live stream. This is a unique time for us. Justin and I are usually bogged down with work, or maybe Justin's done working for the day at this time usually, but we had to do this reaction, so we're here now. And thank you so much, F. Hobick. We're going to have some swag, talk a little great. I loved that energy that Saleh brought.
And thank you so much for the super chat tip. Very generous of you. Love the energy as we get ready to listen to another quote that Saleh said on Thursday.
Kyle Shanahan is one of the biggest, best offensive minds in all of football, period. And if you look at the NFL landscape right now, his offense and his influence is all over the league. Probably, I would argue, 80 to almost 90% of the league. And so Dave's is going to be different. So from a game planning standpoint, and I'm just speaking for myself, like as a defensive coach, you're going through it, just looks like every offense is the same. But when you play the Tennessee Titans, it's going to be different. And so there is a level of game planning that's going to have to change within a week. So that's first. Dave's has had a history of developing young quarterbacks in this league in college and the different stops that he's had. And he's touched many from experience to youth. He has a tremendous amount of experience with tremendous quarterbacks all over. But there's a lot of benefits to what he does as a defensive guy, game planning against Dave's. I can tell you that he's always going to strain you both run and pass. He's going to find the run-pass conflicts within your scheme for individual players. He's going to attack the shit out of it. And again, excuse my language, but he's special in that regard. He's a problem to go against.
This was by far my favorite, most insightful quote of the entire press conference because it's what he said, but to me, it's also, if you read between the lines, I think it's some of the things he didn't say. And we talked about Brian Daboll's offense a lot earlier this week. It is it's not the West Coast offense. It's not the influence Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur has had on the league. It's not the West Coast offense, the zone-based offense. It's and with Brian Daboll, as we know, it's the Erhardt Perkins offensive system derives from that New England has been running for a very long time, dating back to the 70s, I think, when those coaches literally helped come up with it in New England. And Josh McDaniels built on that. Brian Daboll in New England for a long time built on that as well. To me, what that said is that when Robert Saleh, as the defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, okay, turning on the tape every week, and I think you're going to agree with me, Graver. Okay, as I get ready to game plan, what am I seeing here? Oh, it's a West Coast offense. Oh, it's a Kyle Shanahan. And he sees the Shanahan offense every day in practice. He goes turn on the tape. We're playing the Packers. It's a Shanahan offense. We're playing the Rams. It's a Shanahan offense. All these offensive coordinators, really, we're playing the Falcons. Zach Robinson in Atlanta from that tree. It's a Shanahan offense. There are so many offenses around the league who are copycats of that West Coast zone-based system. What Arthur Smith was running here essentially years ago. What obviously Matt LaFleur was running here years ago. Now, and listen, I don't want this to come off too biased. So you know what? I've got no problem with those. Like any offense, that is a highly effective offense when executed correctly. Like any offense in the NFL, when executed correctly, that is a highly effective offense, okay? But for Robert Saleh as the defensive game planner, it's interesting to hear him say, hey, I'm tired of seeing this offense. Maybe it's even a little easy for me to game plan for because I see it every week. I want to zig when the rest of the league zags, whatever the saying is. Like, let's come up with something that's not what I'm used to game planning for, right? So I think that played a huge role in going to get a coordinator who does run something differently. And I'll take it a step further, Graver. He would never admit this publicly. And I don't even know that I agree with him, in all honesty. And I'm projecting a whole lot here. But who were his two coordinators with the New York Jets?
Yes, Mike LaFleur and Nathaniel Hackett, who came from that system.
Both of
that
them
West
came from
Coast.
that. Obviously, Mike LaFleur being Matt LaFleur's brother, and Nathaniel Hackett having worked a long time under Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. Both of them, and obviously for a variety of reasons, that offense failed to launch in New York. Poor quarterback play, injuries at quarterback had a lot to do with it. But when you ask, what was the first question as Teresa Walker asked Robert Saleh? What are you going to do differently? I think one of the things that you'll get there. But one of the things he didn't say, but to me, I'm going to connect the dots here a little bit. When you fail, and he failed in New York, they didn't win enough football games. Ultimately, it was a failure. You look at the things you want to do differently. And some of it, again, maybe you overanalyze. I don't know. But I have no question, no doubt in my mind that he says, you know what? I hired offensive coordinators who ran a system that I'm used to preparing for, that didn't give me issues preparing for because I saw it all the time when I was a defensive coordinator. I think I want to do things differently this time around. And he goes out and gets an offensive coordinator that's not going to just be a Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan copycat. I think that's very purposeful.
Oh, I fully agree. I mean, I do wonder what other offensive coordinator candidates he might have had in mind. Like if Brian Daboll had taken the Bills, if had been offered, obviously, and taken the Bills job, or if he had decided to go become the Eagles offensive coordinator, where it just announced that Sean Mannion is taking that job, former quarterback in the NFL, but never really a starter. Anyway, that's besides the point. I think it's really interesting for all the reasons you said, but I think it also ties into something else that Saleh said during this presser that I don't have a clip of, which was about not just developing players, but we want to develop the staff and challenge the staff.
My second favorite quote.
I didn't pull that one, but I do think it was really interesting because he's talking about it's not just about the thing he's saying. It's indicative of a mindset, a desire to be ahead of the curve instead of following the trend, setting the trend. And in some cases, in some ways, Brian Daboll is a divergence from the trend that is sweeping the NFL right now. And Brian Daboll has had a ton of success doing it his way. And his way changes, by the way. There is no Brian Daboll offense that you can go study and have any understanding of what that's going to look like in Tennessee. His offense in Buffalo looked way different from his Daniel Jones offense in New York, which looked way different from his Jackson Dart offense in New York. And we'll not even mention Russell Wilson. Those offenses had similarities and similar, staples to them, I would say, in terms of like motion and play action. But in terms of the concepts that they're executing, the run game, they change based on the personnel that he's coaching. So don't listen to anyone who tells you they can break down Brian Daboll's offense. Listen to what Brian Daboll's philosophies are. And I'm working on a video myself that's going to break down what to expect from Brian Daboll's offense in Tennessee, with a big admission that we don't really know because he changes it everywhere he goes. And every season he adds new wrinkles. So it's all part of this innovative thing, this be ahead of the curve, develop the coaches so that they can take on bigger roles and challenge them every day. It all fits into this same mindset that I think Robert Saleh brings to the Titans, which is forward thinking, not jumping on trends. And the last thing I want to say on the offensive point here, first live for Heis Michael. Welcome, Heis Michael. He says he loves listening to us every day. Best Titan podcast out there. Appreciate that. We always provide great conversations, which is a joy for all of us. Well, happy to do that for you. Thanks for the comment, and thanks for tuning in here to the live answer. But my last point there with Brian Daboll's offense and zigging where the rest of the league is zagging has fluttered out of my brain on a live show, so we can just move on, Justin. Apologies for that. I got distracted.
All right, I didn't think you were going to interrupt yourself. I just got the comment up there ready for you. I thought you were going to finish your point instead of stopping. My bad as well. Well, listen, Daboll, I think they want to run various concepts out of similar formations, right? Like you want to be able to disguise what you're doing. It's concept-based offense. Sometimes the verbiage is a lot simple. You played that clip a week ago where he said, I would have shortened that to one word, right? When someone was calling out one of their own play calls from college. Like, I think he wants them to play fast, and he wants them to be multiple out of, again, being able to run similar concepts out of multiple formations. I think is going to be a staple of the Brian Daboll offense, and I can't wait to see it. Quickly on the...
Yes, wait, hang on.
Yeah.
The Earhart-Perkins system, really quick, just to sort of clarify this for anyone who doesn't know what that means. It's not so much a system the way the West Coast Shanahan thing is like a system. It's more a terminology packet. It's a way to condense what you're saying, play calls, where you're not necessarily pointing out like each receiver's route. Each word corresponds to a route concept where multiple receivers fit into that picture and you know what position you play and thus which route you're going to run. So just in case there's any confusion over what is Earhart-Perkins, it's more of a vocabulary than it is like a specific system. Now, obviously it has principles that are sort of common throughout everyone who runs it, but every coach kind of takes it and does their own thing with it, puts their own spin on it. Josh McDaniels has his version. Brian Daboll has his version. They're not necessarily the same thing just because they come from the same tree. I did want to get to the since you mentioned it, the biggest learnings from New York. And this is a quicker clip. I'm going to play it first, and then we can get into it.
The proper question would be, what didn't I learn? You know, and there's so much to gain from any time you're in the chair as a head coach, and there's so many learning experiences that I had. So I can sit here and talk to you for the next 4 hours about all those different things, but I can assure you that there was tremendous growth through the opportunity that I had with the Jets, and through that growth, I think I'm more prepared now than I've ever been to attack this position.
It sounds like he learned so much. I mean, he later joked like, "Don't even ask me because how much time you got?" Like that there are so many things that, and I'm sure this is true of every coach that gets, a shot as the head coach, whether they have success immediately or not. I bet that first year is just a whirlwind of learning and what I have to do. I have to put this random game day roster. I have to go do this media appearance with the team before this and travel and arrange like, oh, we're going to London this week. I have to figure out how we're getting there and what's coming with it. Like there's so many things that head coaches are responsible for that you never think of as a coordinator. So I thought that answer was interesting, that he sort of owned it, was like, what didn't I learn is a better question than what did I learn. I love it. I love his mindset again.
Yeah, I thought that was a terrific answer. And Bobby, you could always come on here and talk to us for 4 hours if you'd like about what you learned. I think that'd be an interesting episode. But again, he didn't want to give away too much. One of the things he was willing to say, and we knew this, but he talked about getting back to calling plays and how that's going to make him feel more connected, I think, to the players and the game in general. I thought it was probably the funniest thing he said, that when I didn't call plays in New York, I kind of felt like the timeout and red flag guy. Like, all right, am I calling a timeout or challenging this play? Kind of true, right? Like you're in that CEO style role. What are you doing? You're managing situations. You're managing timeouts. You're managing challenges. You're, occasionally making decisions on punt, go for it, kick a field goal. But when you're not making the decisions on a sort of a down-to-down basis, at least on one side of the ball, I think it's easy to feel a bit of a disconnect. So I'm looking forward to that because I think he's a high-energy guy. I mean, how many times did he say, all gas, no brakes, talking smack, things of that nature? I think he probably lost a little bit of that part of himself by making the decision to not call plays on the defense there with the Jets. And I think, again, the type of motivator he is, the energy that he brings, I think he's going to have that on game day because he's calling plays.
He was asked about the slogans by Paul Kaharski, and especially the all gas, no brakes, the now what? And Paul said, now what is your slogan for the Titans? And he didn't tell us what it's going to be, if he's even going to have one. But I loved this answer. He said, we'll always be all gas, no brakes, but words are words. It's all fun, but at the end of the day, the tape shows everything. He said the silent tape is their resume. We'll try to. Iron Grid says, get Saleh and Liam Cohen back on the pod together. And that's a day one Music City Audible.
We've had 50% of those guys on the pod, so we're halfway there.
Remembering that we had Liam Cohen. We'll see if we can get. I mean, we'll try. I can't promise anything at all.
I'll
but
text Liam right now and ask him if he's willing to do it. He'll probably say no, but.
Since you mentioned that he's going to be calling the plays, that is something, you're right. He said, I don't want to disclose too much about things that I'm going to do differently here, which is good. That's sort of competitive advantage stuff for any other head coaches around the league, especially first timers. Here's what he had to say about calling plays and why he wants to take that back. Because he also said, Justin, in addition to the red flag and timeout guy, he said he joked to Borgonzi that I have the best seat in the house as a fan just to watch this game. Thank you. I said it last week that he must have felt like a fan watching those games from the sidelines when he felt disconnected to the players. But this, I just love the level of detail he goes into. And that's not to say that there wasn't plenty of coach speak in here, but after listening to somebody like Mike McCoy talk for weeks to close out this last season and literally go up to the podium and mumble for 45 seconds and actually say literally nothing with those 45 seconds, I'm thrilled to have a guy like Saleh, who, maybe you remember this, Justin, maybe you don't. He had a number of media moments that sort of went viral when he was with the Jets, kind of like Cam Ward has done in 1 year with Tennessee. Like, he had one quote, "If you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping." Like, he was very quotable. And so I think that's going to continue to be the case. Here's what he said. How much do we have to pay the Justins to do this as a full-time job? Probably more than you can afford. But let me put up this quote that Saleh said on what it means to him to be calling plays and how it affects him during the game on the sideline.
Calling plays for me, it's not necessarily about control, but it's about connecting with the players. When you are a play caller and you are calling plays, you feel the strain that you're putting on them with each call. You're feeling the connection. You're feeling what each one is going through. And again, like I said, I can feel the weight of the play call on individual players in those moments. And to be able to call plays and maintain that connection, maintain that feel for what the players are going through, I think is very, very important from my seat. And it's just one of the many things that'll change throughout my tenure.
So anyway, I just love the fact that it's about connecting with the players, but more than that, it's about feeling the burden that you're putting on them. I think one of the hallmarks of Saleh's tenure as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans that we're about to experience is going to be his ability to connect with the players as humans on a human level. What you're going through on a down-to-down basis in the league, the beating you're taking, the responsibility that's asked of you because of a certain play call, the way that you might be stretched too thin. I just think that there's a reason that his defenses have always been near the top of the league in just about every metric. And it's not just because he's an intelligent schemer, but it's also because he understands his players at a high level. And Iron Grids wants me to ding myself for patting myself on the back.
Iron Grids. I don't have access to the ding. Graver, he's a ding hogger, if you will. That could have came out differently, but he's a ding honger, and I don't have access to the ding. So thank you for making him ding. That's accountability. Iron Grids is in line with the Robert Saleh era, holding him accountable. And I love the super chat tip here, LRXC1. Love this podcast so much. We love you so much. Do you remember how you felt when you watched Callahan's introductory presser? Was the feeling the same? Or is this very different now? We're not going to pretend that hindsight is 2020. We did like the Callahan presser. And I'll say to this day that I think Callahan is a great talker. He's a public speaker. He just doesn't walk the walk. He's a smart X's and O's guy behind the scenes. So he knows how to talk football, and he comes off incredibly intelligent in terms of football. So I think it's all of the other things that he struggled with being a head coach. So not going to sit here and pretend that he wasn't, that he didn't have a good presser. I thought when Brian Callahan was terrible coach, I still thought he was having good pressers near the end of it.
In fact, there were weeks coming off some of his worst games where he'd go to the podium and say everything I wanted to hear. And he'd get me back in a little bit with some of his pressers. But I will say, as far as presence and command of a space, and maybe it's body type. I mean, Saleh is a big, strong, buff dude. He comes with a presence when he enters the room, similar to Mike Vrabel, different body types.
Guy. He's a real football guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think that Brian Callahan, he did cry during his opening press conference at finally getting this opportunity. He also came off, and now this is hindsight, like you said, hindsight's 2020. I didn't feel this at the time, but looking back now, and I also feel like, Justin, every year, just like everyone in life gets better at doing what they're doing the longer they're doing it. Every year that I cover this team and cover this sport, I'm only 33. I'm about to be 33 years old. I'm not like old. Like, actually, I'm about to be 34. Sometimes I forget how old I am. I'm not like old. I'm not young either, obviously. I've done this for, 10 plus years now. But I still find myself learning things and learning how my expectations change based on the experiences we've been through. Like, I thought Marcus Mariota was a great quarterback and like a franchise quarterback until I saw Ryan Tannehill reinvigorate the offense when he took the field. And then I start to learn, like, okay, there's something I was missing. And obviously, I think Mariota had 2 great years, his first 2 years, and then got hurt. And like his play went off a cliff after that. It wasn't just that he didn't have it or whatever. But there is a little bit of that character element, that a-hole vibe that
Yes.
Cam Ward has. And it influenced my evaluation of Cam Ward, where I was way more focused on Cam Ward, the person, than I was on Cam Ward's Wazoo tape, for example. Like, obviously, there are hundreds of guys on this planet who can make throws at an NFL level, but there's only a dozen guys that can do it at a high level, mentally process everything that it takes to process with the NFL, with the complexity of defenses and the offensive scheme, and have that attitude and that personality to bring people along with them. So, all that to say, as I look back on Callahan, I now feel like I'm better prepared to evaluate what to expect from Saleh. And that doesn't mean that Saleh won't fail. Like, he certainly could end up failing for some of the same reasons that doomed him in New York. If his in-game management mistakes aren't just mistakes, but they're costing the Titans games, that can be something that dooms him to fail. If he's not calling timeouts on a 2-minute drive and the offense ends up not scoring points because they run out of time and he had timeouts, it's like, okay, we're going to look back and we're going to critique that. So it's not to say that he can't fail just because we like his opening presser. And as I said to start this show, people joining late, I assume, because it's a live stream, winning the presser is a lot different from winning football games. And now we do think he won the presser today, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be successful by any means, and that's another thing that you learn the longer you cover the sport. Anyway, to answer the question on Callahan, I do think there are similarities, and there were things we loved when Callahan got to that podium for the first time, but I do think if you look back on it now with hindsight, you can kind of say there was a bit of a meekness to him, and like the crying is endearing, but it's also not exactly what players are going. I mean, sometimes it is. We live in 2026 now. Men can cry and show emotion. So I don't mean it. I don't mean to sound like, ancient sex role kind of sexist, whatever. Gender roles is the word I was looking for. But anyway, I do think that there is more presence to what Saleh brings as the head coach. And on that note, Justin, I'll play my first Mike Borgonzi clip and our only Mike Borgonzi clip talking about players wanting to play for Robert Saleh because of the person he is, and like I said before, the connection that he develops with his players.
And one of the big takeaways for me is I used to stand pregame on the field and watch Robert with his players, and sometimes go down after the game and be on the sideline. His players loved playing for him. I'm just thrilled now that all you guys here, our players, have an opportunity to play for Coach Saleh.
I mean, there's nothing left. There's nothing else to say. Like Borgonzi said it, right?
Yeah, I certainly think that these players are going to enjoy playing for him. I said it a couple episodes ago. I think from the top down, there's starting to be a structure in place in Tennessee, accountability. The standard is the standard, right? And I think the way Robert Saleh is going to coach these guys, I think Jeffrey Simmons will be an extension of that accountability on the defensive side of the ball. And I think Cam Ward will be an extension of that on the offensive side of the ball. And that's important, right? To have 3 leaders, head coach, offense, defense, and of course the rest of the coaching staff that could help bring it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple more things just on Saleh's mindset, because I was talking about that before. Another thing he said that I thought stood out to me, and some of this stuff feels like a little bit like it can maybe get old and cliche at a certain point, but not today. Not on the first day that we, as Titans fans, hear him talk as the Titans head coach. One of the things he said was, the objective of life is to go to bed better than when you woke up. Again, mindset. He lives these things that he preaches, this growth mindset. He lives it every single day. He also, we played the clip in the intro, but if you're just joining us or joined late, wants the team to be known for being fast and violent. What great football words to describe what you're looking for and what your team identity could be two things that win football games, fast and violent. So I loved those comments. And I'm going to say one more and then I'll throw it back to you. He said, we're really excited about the roster. He mentioned, like, obviously there's some veteran players here. There's some promising young players. But then he also said, you can call it a blank canvas if you want. Now that stands out to me as being a little more revealing than it intends to be. That tells me there's going to be sweeping changes to this roster. They're going to bring players in. They're going to let players go. They're going to make it in their own image, that looks with players that look like the guys they drafted last year with Mike Borgonzi's first draft class. Calling the roster a blank canvas, that's an interesting term to use because there's still a lot of football players on that roster right now who it's not a blank canvas necessarily.
Well, they also signed a lot of guys on, short-term contracts. They've got a ton of cap space. They've got good, draft capital. So I can understand how many guys are here on offense for the long term, right? Like Cam Ward, the guys that they drafted, neither running back. Chig is a free agent. I think the O-line will mostly be intact, but there's a lot of opportunity for change on the offense. And on the defense, who's here is, Jeffrey Simmons is a long-term guy. Cedric Gray is a long-term guy. Hopefully Kevin Winston. I don't know that I'd put anyone other than, 3-4 players as long-term guys on the defense. So with all that cap space, there's certainly a lot of opportunity to make some changes.
Yeah. Kieran has a comment here. I was really expecting Saleh to at least put more than 2 minutes into his opening speech, but I loved that he didn't. Said thanks, said he's excited, and then asked me some damn questions. So good. I totally agree with that. Like, he went up to the podium and said, I'm not a big opening statement guy, kind of like Mike McDaniel, where this went semi-viral on NFL Twitter, at least the other day, when McDaniel did his Chargers opening presser and literally said, I'm not big on opening statements, but I'll open with this statement. I'm really excited. My family's really excited. Funny that he gave a nod to my favorite coach of the cycle, Mike McDaniel. But anyway, Justin, I got a couple more quotes I want to play here. Talking about Cam Ward, what he's seen from Cam Ward. There's some generic coach speak stuff in here, but there's also a few things that stand out to me that I would like to reference after we play the clip.
No, absolutely. Great question, too. Like Cam, from everything that I've gathered, just all the discussions I've had throughout the building and throughout the league, comes with an elite work ethic, elite character, an elite person. And, when you look at his body of work as a rookie, a lot of these rookies, when they come in through the middle of OTAs. But so the biggest thing that we're going to work with Cam, just going all the way back to the beginning, we've gotten a whole off season to work with him, take him back to the very, very beginning, both on the field, off the field, the process at which what it looks like to not only be a professional with regards to preparation in his body, but as a professional with regards to preparing from a game planning standpoint or a playbook standpoint. But, just talking with Dabes over the course of the last few weeks, he is the perfect man to match up with Cam and to maximize who he is. So again, we're really pumped to get to work with Cam and get him to where we all know he can be.
Okay, first thing that stands out. Talking with Dabes over the last few weeks. This wasn't, he walks into the interview and they're like, who's your OC? And he's like, I don't know. I'd love to get this guy or that guy. And Borgonzi's like, well, how about somebody I worked with in Kansas City, Brian Daboll? No, he's been talking to Dabes for weeks. I think Daboll was the plan he presented to Mike Borgonzi. I mean, I'm speculating on that, but the fact that he said, I've been talking to Dabes for weeks, that's information that we didn't have.
No, certainly interesting. Maybe he tipped his hand a little too much there by saying how long they had been pursuing Daboll as the offensive coordinator. Certainly indicates it was part of his plan. Let's get to some of these questions here. Maybe interesting that. Sorry, I just scrolled up. I had it. Interesting.
I had two starred that I can throw up here. Do we think Saleh can help Femi? Oh, I had that one starred too. We'll get to that one next. Daryl Barnes. Do we think Saleh can help Femi? Absolutely. Absolutely think he can. That doesn't mean Femi's going to turn from bust into star. I don't think he's either of those things right now. But one of his hallmarks, one of Saleh's hallmarks, and Borgonzi said it, and we've heard it from many other sources, is player development. And that's the thing that Femi needs. A raw player with lots of physical tools coming out of UCLA, switching positions midway through his senior year. He needs to be developed. And I don't think the last staff is necessarily capable of developing. I mean, the defensive staff was pretty good, and Femi started to come on in that last game that he played, the Week 5 game against the Raiders. Or week 6 game against the Raiders, the Brian Callahan's last game, the one that Femi got hurt in, didn't play again. He started to show some flashes in that game, but I absolutely think Robert Saleh can help Femi. That doesn't mean they don't need edge rushers, plural, still to add to this roster. But 100%, that's one of the reasons you go get a guy like Robert Saleh is because of his track record developing players on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And there was a photo of Saleh with Femi from today's, right before the press conference. So he's already coaching him up. Certainly excited to see if a guy like Femi could take a step. I wanted to address this comment earlier because I really liked this actually. I didn't talk about this enough from the presser quote itself. When we see the plan for a future OC once the coaching staff is set, senior Spiky. I don't think he's going to promote Stalker to assistant OC or anything like that. But he talked about developing the coaches, right? Like, I think that was the most interesting thing about that comment specifically. And I think the Titans have several coaches on this offensive staff that might project as future coordinators. And I love that Saleh is, again, talking about how can we get them ready. Now, of course, he didn't name names, but I certainly think a guy like Luke Stalker factors into that. Probably quarterback coach Shea Tierney, I think, would factor into that as well. Those are probably the two most that come to mind for me when I think about a potential succession plan at offensive coordinator. But I do believe that there is a good one in place.
I totally agree. I think that, and again, we heard that was reported, that he presented a plan to Borgonzi for the second phase should the offensive coordinator leave. And Paul Kaharski asked him point blank, if everything goes perfectly and Brian Daboll leaves for a head coaching job, do you have a plan? And that's how we got into the whole answer about the coaching development program that he wants to have instituted here. Another question just rolled in on the same topic. He also mentioned we'll see more on the future OC once the staff is set. So expect another big name coming in. No, I think the offensive staff is almost fully set by now.
They've got the quarterback. I think it's full. I mean, fully set essentially, Kieran, because they've got a quarterbacks coach, a running back, a wide receiver, a tight ends coach, a coordinator, of course, and an O-line coach. So all those position coaches are set. Outside of a senior offensive assistant, assistant quarterbacks coach, you typically have assistant offensive line coach. Like, those lower level jobs are still to be announced, but those aren't going to be your future coordinators, right? Your future coordinators, if so, in-house, is your quarterback coach, your tight end coach, I think, more than likely. And those jobs are all set already.
Another senior Spiky or senior Spiky? You'll have to let us know in the chat which way to say it. First time in chat, but been a fan since ATL days. Wow, that's nice. Okay, thank you for
since the ATL.
Around the. I'm guessing around the league.
Around the league days. Okay, yeah, awesome, love that. Thanks for the super chat, senior Spiky. Appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate you. Who's the pass game coordinator? Not announced yet. I don't even know if you're talking about offensive or defensive, but neither has been announced. Senior, like a student. Thank you, senior Spiky. I have one more clip I wanted to play from the presser. And this one, we had actually a chat comment about this. I don't see it now, but talking about why he wanted to take the Tennessee Titans job. Here is what Saleh said was the reasoning behind it.
Shamelessly, I probably did as much research on this organization and the people, the leadership committee in this organization than they probably did on me, and did a ton of research on everything I could in terms of from top all the way down. And what I found is that the people here are unbelievable, and getting a chance to meet everybody in person just was an affirmation to what I had already heard. And I'm a firm believer that people win championships. And this organization is built to win a championship because of the people, from obviously Miss Amy all the way down. The people here are unbelievable. And so that first and foremost is what drew me close to this organization.
I think with the people he's talking about, he threw Amy in there as a courtesy because she hired him. I don't think she's the person. Yeah, I don't think she's necessarily the person he's talking about. It's Mike Borgonzi. It's
Agreed.
Like Mike Borgonzi's reputation around the league. We've heard it from our own sources and from reports and insiders that Mike Borgonzi has a great reputation, that coaches around the league want to work with him. And I think that is what he's talking about when he says the people here. Because like I said, based on what they've all talked about when it comes to culture and football character, like, they see building a roster the same way. They are aligned on that philosophy, and that's a huge thing is to have that alignment on the coaching staff. Got another super chat here, Justin. Wow. Shawnee Pat. Does this help or hurt Saleh in y'all's eyes? Based on Mike Herndon's great article on his tendencies, it seems bad for T-Bone, T'Vondre Sweat, unless Jeff Simmons gets him engaged. We will talk more about T'Vondre Sweat's potential fit or not on this roster in the coming weeks. Not going to get bogged down too much with that today. Sorry to sort of disregard your super chat. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the donation. I promise we will answer this question another time, just not today. Yeah.
Well,
another
I have a lot
super
to
chat.
say about the T'Vondre Sweat thing, Shawnee Pat. So thanks again for the super chat tip. But certainly, and Mike Herndon's article is fantastic. So good on you for reading it.
And Daryl Barnes with a super chat here. $5 Canadian. Look at that, Justin. That goes straight to your bank account.
I don't even
Love the podcast.
That goes straight to me.
Love the podcast, boys. Always watching for Titans news and analysis. Well, thank you for tuning in.
Where are you, Daryl? Drop a comment below. Where are you in the country? I'm curious.
Pete Keggs points out that you have to mention the owner, and that is true. Saleh definitely had to mention the owner. There's a couple little things I wanted to mention here quickly before we get out of here, Justin. We're going to wrap this up in a minute. But Mike Borgonzi talked about Cam Ward's rehab status, said he's currently rehabbing. I don't want to put a timetable on it, but he's doing well. That's the only information we've gotten on Cam Ward's injury since the injury occurred, and we heard that he wouldn't be needing surgery. We did see him at multiple Miami college football playoff games out of a sling, so not wearing a sling, pretty quick after the injury happened. I don't know how it's going to affect what he's able to work on, but as long as he's working on footwork and his step, his drop, and things like that, it's not necessarily going to hinder him too much. Obviously, he can't throw right now, but that is okay. So I just thought that was an interesting thing that he mentioned. One more Saleh quote that was great. You're going to feel this football team from the living room. Yeah. Man, that fires me up to play. If I'm a player hearing my brand new head coach say that in his first press conference, and by the way, speaking of players hearing their brand new head coach at his first press conference, Cam Ward, Kevin Winston Jr., Alec Iamaner, Jackson Slater, Jeffrey Simmons, Morgan Cox, Kalel Mullings, Julius Chestnut, J.C. Latham, Jalen Harrell, Tajay Spears, Femi Oladejo were all present for this press conference, and also in attendance, coaches Tony Oden and Randy Jordan. I don't remember if there were that many players at Callahan's introductory presser, but pretty cool to see that big of a show of support. In addition to Saleh's 8 kids, his wife, he said his parents were there. Huge show of support for Robert Saleh here at his introductory press conference.
Yeah, great to see the players. So many rookies. I mean, almost the entire rookie class there. So that was really, you love to see that support from this team. Of course, it starts with the quarterback, and it starts with the superstar defensive tackle. 2 of the most important players on the team right now, both in attendance. And I get the impression, I mean, we know Simmons is, but both are fired up to have Robert Saleh as their head coach. I think that's going to do it.
I got one more thing I wanted to one more comment I wanted to mention that Saleh made was, again, back to his connection with the players and ability to connect with them and form that relationship, is he said he understands what they're going through, and this is the quote, "Players put hours of work in for that one moment in the fourth quarter. And when that's executed, I become their biggest fans, acting like their parents." Like that, like you said earlier, and I think we had chat comments about it too, like players want to play for a coach that is showing that energy and that excitement and celebrating with them. I think he didn't mention this, but I think a big thing Saleh is going to reinstitute with this team is celebrate with your teammates. And we'll get into like the coaching staff and the people they hired, but Greg Lewis, who's going to be the wide receivers coach, so it's been reported, had a quote floating around out there on Twitter, and shout out to Sharm Sports on Twitter, who has been doing a great job finding quotes and mic'd up moments and just clips of the various members of the new coaching staff and tweeting them out so we all get sort of a sense of who they are as people and as coaches. He had a quote that was like, "Receivers, if you don't block, we're not going to pass you the ball, because when you catch a touchdown pass, it's your teammates blocking up for the offensive line, blocking, the running back blocking, the quarterback throwing the ball. You may score the touchdown, but you're not doing it alone. So you're going to return the favor by blocking for your teammates." There was a big thing that Vrabel had when he was the head coach here, which was he was always telling guys, go celebrate with your teammates. Great job. Go celebrate with your teammates. It's a team game. Bring all the players together. And Brian Callahan didn't have that. I mean, he might have thought that was important, but we never heard in any mic'd up, in any press conference, in anything when we saw Brian Callahan, we never saw him say anything like that, institute any kind of policy where you got to celebrate with your teammates. I think Robert Saleh is going to bring some version of that back to this team. And I think that really helps form a closer bond with the players.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I'm excited for the Robert Saleh era to get started in Tennessee. I think this is going to be a physical, violent team that buys in, plays with a lot of energy, and plays for one another. That's going to do it, I believe, for this very special live edition of the Music City Audible Pod. We said we were going to go 30 minutes. We went 50. What else is new? We hope you guys enjoyed. You seem to. Thank you so much we were a bit delayed on the start. I mean, we were both working our regular football jobs, but we got here as soon as we could. I'm working Senior Bowl. Graver was working. He'd the call. Glad we were able to do this, and almost for an entire hour. Will you look at that? We will be back tomorrow in less than, 16 hours, roughly-ish, with another
19?
live episode. It's going to be another live of the Music City Audible. Please tune in. It'll be our regular morning. Usually, I think 10:30 a.m. Central is roughly when you can expect this. I think a much better time than this time here today. Until y'all join in tomorrow, leave a comment below. I got you. Leave a comment below when this stream ends. Send it to a friend. Subscribe to the channel. You guys are going crazy with the subscriptions lately. We are blown away. We are closing in on 6,000 subs. We are anxious and excited to get there. So leave a comment once this stream ends. Send it to a friend. Boost the algo and subscribe to the channel. Until we are back tomorrow, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.